Well, it might be one of the biggest nights in the history of women's college basketball. They're going to get numbers that have never been achieved before because these two games are just off the charts. Interesting, amazing, great rivalries, great players, stars, the whole deal. And, it starts off with a rematch of the national championship game from last year. Iowa against LSU, Angel Reese against Caitlin Clark, and we want to bring in our very own Andraya Carter, who will be part of our coverage starting at 7 on ESPN. Andraya, it's Michael, Don, and Peter. How you doing?
Hello. I'm doing great. Are you kidding me? You just mentioned this being one of the biggest days, probably the biggest Elite Day we've ever seen. I get to be a very small part of it, and the players are ready. I just feel it. I feel it. I'm excited. I can keep going, but I'll let you all go.
All right, so let me ask you this. Last year, LSU beat Iowa. What has changed that Iowa might be able to win this game?
Well, a lot has changed. There were 3 players that combined for over 50 points in that game for LSU that are no longer a part of the team. Alexis Morris graduated, Jasmine Carson isn't there, and LaDasia Williams graduated. They all put up 20 points. Angel Reese got in foul trouble, and her teammates stepped up for her, but this is a completely new LSU team that at times has had to figure out how to put the pieces together in terms of their transfers. Angel Reese and Anissa Morrow now know how to play with each other, but it took some time to figure it out. And then at times, the team still feels like they're figuring out how Haley Van Lith can thrive. I actually think this is a game where Haley Van Lith could have a ton of success, but it's a completely different LSU team. Well, also, it's a pretty different Iowa team. I mean, Monica Sonato was a big-time piece as far as being Caitlin Clark's dynamic duo partner on the inside. She played really well last year, but these are different teams. The 2 superstars are the same, and that's why everyone is so excited. And it's actually been fun to watch some of the other players, Flajay Johnson for LSU, Hannah Stolke for Iowa. It's been fun to watch them grow and blossom this season. The eyes are on both teams, but you can't say it's exactly the same as last season because it's not close.
Andraya, you've obviously been at the highest levels of this game and know what these players are going through. Something does feel different, obviously, this year. The Angel Caitlin story started a year ago, and I don't think for those of us who are at casuals, if you will, I don't think we had any idea what we were getting involved in. Did you know a year ago, or maybe more than that we were really going to be entering this very special period for the women's college game?
It felt like that. I didn't know for sure, but with how big last season was, I just remember us all having conversations, within the ESPN space, within the women's basketball space, even just the basketball space in general. Like, how do we build off of this? How do we build off of this momentum? How do we make it bigger? How do we make it better? How do we support the athletes and follow their stories more closely to get back to this point in even bigger fashion? And not giving us all of the credit, because it's really been the players also. Like, their ability to handle what seems like this season more distractions than ever, from NIL to cameras on them to a documentary series following them to the new teammates and the pressure of having success and TV commercials and music videos. Like, the players being able to handle all this, that's what's been the most impressive to me. Because what would be the worst thing? We get all this buzz, they get all this attention, and then the basketball flips. Because at the end of the day, the stories are fun, but the basketball still has to back it up. Like, storylines might bring viewers in, but the basketball is going to make them stay. And so the best part that I wasn't sure how it was going to go is, what is the basketball going to look like with everything else going on? And the basketball's been great. So I didn't see it coming. I knew there was a possibility, but there's a lot that goes into growing off of such a big moment. And I do think because of the players and the visibility that we've had this season, we've been able to do that.
So how does it work for the athlete? Do you take all that into the game, the history of it, the eyeballs on it, the meaning of it all, and use that on the court, or do you just try to strip it all away and just have it be about basketball when they tip off?
I think it, and I never made it to a Final Four. Shout out to everybody that's made it. It's not easy to do, but I do know for a player, and I've heard even talking to athletes at every level of this season, because I've covered every level of this season, from men's college to NBA to WNBA, and you might bring a lot on the court right before tips, right, or right before warm-ups, but when warm-ups start, you're right back in your routine, or right before tip-off, you're feeling it. And then as soon as you get that hit, you get hit for the first time, or you make a layup for the first time, or you get right into basketball action. You check a cutter, you dive on the floor, you do things that kind of push you right in the game. And I've heard some players say, like, they just try to hit somebody one time, like not an egregious hit, not an out of line hit, but just to feel the physicality of the game, and then they're in it. And now everything else goes away. Now it's me versus you, our game plan versus your game plan. I'm tired, I'm pushing through, I'm hurting, I missed that shot, I made that shot. You can become so deep. You can take a deep dive into the game once the game starts. And hopefully for these athletes, that's what it feels like. But I also have to think that when things start to go left or things start to go poorly, I think that's where it gets dangerous, because that's when it's easier for the thoughts of how big this is and who's watching and how many eyes are on this team. That's when those things creep in. So they have to be stronger than ever now when things start to go wrong to pull it back together. I think that's probably the hardest part from what some of the athletes have told me.
Now, I don't know if there's anything more that Caitlin Clark has to do. She's done it all. She's an inspiration for people. But our very own Jay Williams said in order for her to be considered great, she has to win a championship. Does she need this win today to get to the Final Four again to continue to burnish her legacy, or is her legacy set?
Caitlin's legacy as the greatest scorer and probably the most impactful college basketball player that we've seen is set. Like, that legacy is golden. And there's not anything that can be done, in my opinion, to change those things. She's already great. So that's Jay Will. We're just not going to talk about that, because a championship wouldn't make her great. She is already great, in my opinion, because her team is good enough to do it. Also because we've seen South Carolina play other teams close. It's not like South Carolina has just blown teams out of the water. Teams have played them close. So it is within reason that Caitlin Clark could lead this team to a national championship. They could have done it last year. They had a good shot last year. They have a good shot this year. I believe that a championship would make her resume goated. So think about this. I know players have won multiple championships. I know the players have won 4. I know players have won 3. I know players have won 2. But those players had WNBA lottery picks on their team. Multiple of them. At least one. A lot of them had multiple. And so, for me, winning multiple championships is a sign of an amazing program. But if you can lead one as a player, and I'm not saying Caitlin's teammates are bad, they're good enough to win it. So because it's within reach, because it's doable, because they're good enough, if Caitlin can lead the way, she's got to get one to be in the GOAT conversation. Her legacy is set as what it is, but it can go up a notch. It's not going to go down. Nothing's going to hurt it. Nothing's going to make it go down. But it could go up a notch if she leads this team to a championship.
And that's what's so funny, because, in sports, we can see a player like her be great and still lose the game. And maybe she's off and they still win the game. So it's so interesting how we attach everything to the star player. So I'll ask you, if she's great tonight, is there still an avenue for LSU to still win the game?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there have been games, we take it as I believe it was the West Virginia game, where Caitlin, the team was 5 of 22 from beyond the arc. Caitlin was 5 of 14 from beyond the arc, right? So her teammates took 8 threes. None of them made one, right? Now you go up against, the team Colorado that they just played, and Gabby Marshall's knocking them down. Kate Martin's knocking them down. Sydney Falter's perfect from the field. Hannah Stokey's running the floor. Like, when they're playing great, they can do it. But there is a lane, and we have had examples of Caitlin playing great and it's still not being enough. And so I think that is possible. It is not, and I think the thing to really pay attention to with Caitlin is not her scoring, but if she can get a double-double with points and assists, LSU's in dangerous territory. Because what does that mean? It means Caitlin's finding her teammates, and her teammates are knocking down shots. A good number just to think about, Iowa is 24-0 when Caitlin takes less than 25 field goal attempts. Meaning things actually go a little bit better when Caitlin doesn't have to do all of the heavy lifting scoring. So we could very well see Caitlin have to do the heavy lifting scoring, and it still not be enough because maybe LSU has two players that combine for what Caitlin makes point-wise, and then a couple other players step up. You see what I'm saying? So it's definitely not outside of question for Caitlin to play great, and Iowa still fall short.
Now, one thing before we wrap, Andrea. So, when did you start doing national women's college basketball for ESPN for big ESPN?
Yeah, my first game I called I called a game. I think it was on ESPNU during the tournament. Back in 2018. I called my first tournament game, and before that I did some stuff on SEC Network Plus and the SEC Network. But I called 3 games that year, and then the next year I did maybe 10 on TV. Next year I did maybe 14 TV games, and then ended up going full time. So it's been a bit of a journey, but I've been here.
Well, I'll tell you, in looking at your story, because for a lot of us, obviously, like I said, with the impact of women's college basketball right now, your visibility is obviously higher than ever. And your story is awesome, too, man. I just wanted to give you your flowers because, seeing how your career ended at Tennessee, and obviously you weren't able to go on to continue to play, seeing your story and you grind it out, congratulations to you, too, to getting to be sort of in such a great position as the game is exploding. I love seeing stories like this from broadcasters, so kudos to you as well.
Oh, thank you. That was unexpected, but I really appreciate it. It's been the biggest gift I could ever have. A dream that didn't come true has turned into literally a dream come true. So I'm super thankful. I appreciate it.
Now, before we let you go, we can't forget the other game. This is one of the rare times that UConn kind of is an underdog in a case because they had so many injuries and there was problems with Gino's health this year. What kind of chance did they have in the second game?
UConn definitely has a chance. I mean, the way that Paige Beckers and Aaliyah Edwards play off of each other, their pick-and-roll game, I have to give credit, speaking of giving credit where it's due, Ashlyn Shade has been lights out this tournament, knocking down threes. The Duke game was rough, but the Duke game, that was a rock fight for both sides. That game was a struggle, but that game aside, the freshmen have been playing really well. Nico Mueller's got to control pace and control the ball and take care of the ball. But if you think about it, the two storylines are Juju and her team and how her teammates play alongside her. Same thing on the other side. Paige and her team and how they play along her. I think UConn has less margin for error in terms of foul trouble, in terms of taking bad shots, those type of things. I think USC has a little more wiggle room in terms of not being sharp at all times. But to me, this is an even game that's going to be really fun to watch. Neither team, I don't know what the spread is. I don't know. Honestly, don't even know who was picked to win it. But for me, it should be a fun, even game.
Good stuff. Thank you so much. Have a great time tonight. There'll be a lot of people watching.
Thank y'all so much. Enjoy the game.
All right. It all starts at 7 on ESPN. I think they're going to get 10 to 15 million viewers. I don't even know why ESPN, not that, Bob Iger or Jimmy Pitaro needs me to program things. They should put this on ABC. I mean, what's on ABC that's going to be bigger than this?
Is it The Bachelor?
This would be bigger than The Bachelor.
That's the thing. It's so it was on Saturday, Michael.
It
was on ABC, and I was like, oh wow, it's on. I looked on ESPN, and I'm like, oh no, it's on ABC. And I agree with you. If I would almost move stuff for this, I just feel like this is the matchup, and this is the game, Michael, that could outrate the final depending on who ends up there. If Iowa loses tonight, this is going to be the biggest game of the tournament. So, yeah, you kind of want to move everything you can to make way for this.
Well, they're probably not going to move it, so tune to ESPN tonight. Starts at 7. Should be great. Hey, if you're like me, you love to spend time at home.